give me the specs. The specs as it sits today. I'm not going to hold you to it. I just want to know weight, power, like all the things. I want to know like the core specs as it pertains to the bike and where you have landed today. And are you set for production? Like, are you like you're done making changes? Like this is what it's going to be.
Yeah. So kind of base specs, 4.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, high power pack. The pack itself will do, sort of 60 kilowatt of discharge. But obviously you've got powertrain efficiencies. This is also an area that's not really talked about in the industry. When you see people talking about a 55 or 60 kilowatt bike, they're just claiming electrical power, not the mechanical power that you're putting down to the ground. So our high power pack, 4.4 kilowatt hour, running through our controller and motor is putting out more than 40 horsepower to the wheel. So that's, to the crank is upper 40s, almost 50 horsepower, basically at this 40 kilowatt ish range, sort of upper 30s, mechanical power. Torque is at the wheel, it's over 700 Newton meters. At the crank, it's 60 Newton meters plus with a 11.4 to 1, I think, reduction end to end. It uses moto gearing on the sprockets, so you can change some gearing and tune that if you want a little more top end or a little bit more grunt, which frankly no one should need more low end torque.
No.
And in terms of kind of controller capabilities, this is in the weeds, but it will do 700 amps, max discharge. And then it's an 80 volt nominal system, peak kind of voltage 92.4. That's because the power electronics hardware, most of the kind of high end systems are built off 120 volt kind of power electronics hardware. You need that breathing room for voltage spikes, not to damage hardware. So stuff that's running higher voltage than 90 starts to push up against some of these reliability limits. And then weight, 235 pounds right now as it stands. Production kind of status is we've got tooling already in work. Some of the tools are already done. We're starting to see like our swing arms are fully out of the tool. Plastic parts are starting to come out of the tools, forgings, like linkage parts, all that stuff done, brakes, suspension, bars, tires, wheels done. We're doing final validation on our kind of pre-production prototypes. We're doing final tuning for throttle maps for our kind of base maps, giving the rider options of power and torque and speed. So we're going to probably hit the market with 5 different maps, going from a really easy learner map where you can't whiskey throttle, you can't wheelie it. You can put like your 14-year-old niece on it that's never ridden a motorcycle and have confidence she's going to be okay, to the map 5, which is fully unleashed and it pulls like a 450 plus. It has reverse and walk mode out of the gate. It's a display. The communication system is talking from battery to controller, motor, and display, all kind of over CAN, sharing kind of health and diagnostic information across the system. So it's super safe and making sure that performance is what you need. A lot of kind of software fine tuning going on over the next few months there. Our intent is to start getting off production shippable units in Q1 still, sort of towards the end of Q1, and kind of go through validation over the next 4 months to just be really confident that everything we're going to ship in that time frame is going to be perfect. So we're getting really close.
Dude, 235 pounds is like, I mean, that is a freaking sweet spot. Yeah, it's a freaking sweet spot. I mean, I think my Ultra with the big battery and all that's like 218, something like that. Like it's so negligible in the difference of how heavy it's going to be. How much controllability are you going to give to the end user for within the app? I think that's one thing that Nate and I go back and forth, because we experience more issues with people having too much control of the bike, or them getting into the weeds and starting to mess with stuff that they don't understand. They just saw it on like YouTube and like they just crank it up and they're like, man, it's going slower. And I'm like, well, yeah, dude.
Simple like, stuff too. Like I turned the sensor on and now I have an error code. It's like, well, turn it back off.
Yeah. Like stop messing with stuff, man.
Yeah. How much control will they have, Colin? And I have a question after this too.
Yeah. So the idea is we're going to launch with kind of those factory settings. Regen will be controllable independent from the map. So we'll give kind of like a couple levels of regen or off. And then each map will have its torque and speed and power availability. The idea is not to just kind of step 0 to 5 in a linear progression, but actually have these maps tuned for like a trail versus an enduro versus an MX type of context. So we'll change throttle curve shape, as well as kind of the baseline numbers for torque and power within each of those. Eventually, we will have an app. We're not going to launch straight out of the gate with an app that gives you direct access to all of those sort of sliders. We'll eventually get there. I think it's probably, sort of the next horizon of work after we're starting to ship the initial bikes, because I think we're confident the flexibility and capability of the bike is going to be more than enough for the vast majority of people. And I identify with that comment of like, you look at suspension setting as a great one, and people are like, turning this in more is stiffer, which means better, right? And you're like, no, you just ruined this balance of this, so you got to be careful with what you give people access to. At least the tools to understand, the effect that they're having on the platform.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to go. Just, it's on 5 maps too, is plenty. Like you can do so many different things in 5 maps, kind of find your sweet spot. And especially with suspension, I find that a lot of e-motos, they don't have base settings. Like Cirrus, if you upgrade to that, they have base settings where you can go back to if you goof up. But yeah, I would just love to see that more in the e-moto space. My last question on this is, I am a guy who wants to swap batteries. How fast is the swap? Like, talk us through the process. How do you swap a battery on a Dust?
Yeah, so if you want to find it on our Instagram, one of our most watched videos is actually the time battery swap that Ronnie, our engineer, did in the shop. This was like on the prototype, and we learned some lessons there. So he did it in 67 seconds with power tools. In that situation, there's 2 different bolt head types for the seat and the battery. So the process is 2 bolts for the seat, slide it off, 4 bolts for the battery, unplug it, pull it out, and then drop it in, plug it in, 4 bolts, seat, 2 more bolts. After that, we've commonized the bolt head type between the seat and the battery mounts. The reason we did bolted battery mounts is because if you're actually riding, you see how these bikes get crashed, tumbling end over end or rolling down hills. Like just a simple kind of like clamp system or squish system with the seat is not enough. It's a 55+ pound battery flying around. Like it needs to be bolted in, at least by our belief system. And so that's why we've got bolts. So yeah, it's basically 6 bolts, a plug, and pop the seat. And actually the display kind of rotates out of the way, so you have a little more room to pull the battery. So the display is on a hinge, and it kind of moves out of the way there. So I think with those updates, we actually put little holes into the subframe for the rear battery bolts, and we put little holes up near the display to hold like the seat and battery bolts up there. So nice. you got a place to put the hardware where you're doing a swap. You don't just drop it in the dirt or try to put it in your pocket. So I think we'll get it probably down to, 55 seconds or something like that with those updates. So.